The scene was chaotic. Emily and her friends screamed from the side of the road.
Help! The car in front has flipped over, and there are people inside.
The car belonged to John, crushed by a large truck. Oil leaked from the bottom, making everyone too afraid to approach.
I have to save John, don't stop me.
Just moments ago, I had hit my head during the emergency braking. Memories from my past life flashed through my mind.
Emily, it's too dangerous!
It was the day of John's engagement, the day of the accident. A month ago, Emily had agreed to be my girlfriend.
In my previous life, I had stopped her from rescuing John because of the danger, and the car exploded, killing him instantly. Emily was so traumatized.
Emily developed severe depression. It was only then that everyone realized she had always secretly loved John. She had agreed to be my girlfriend just to cover up her pain.
I didn't care if she had someone else in her heart. I accompanied her to see a therapist, traveled with her, and believed I could heal her wounds.
2 years later, I finally married Emily. Just as I was looking forward to a beautiful future together, I found myself in a car accident while on a business trip. The brakes failed, and I crashed into the edge of a cliff. The impact caused the car to flip over, and oil started leaking. I was losing a lot of blood.
Emily, I had an accident. I want to tell you, you are the person I love the most in this life.
To my shock, I heard Emily's hysterical laughter on the other end.
Michael, you finally got what you deserve. If it weren't for you stopping me back then, John wouldn't have died. How does it feel to face this kind of end?
I couldn't believe my ears. I never imagined Emily hated me so much, just because I had stopped her from saving John. The blood kept flowing, and I lost consciousness.
Let go!
Emily was still shouting, and I snapped back to reality. Looking at my hand gripping Emily's arm, I quickly released her.
Go ahead, Emily, bravely save the one you love. This time, I won't stop you.
Emily rushed forward, and our friends, too scared to intervene, could only shout anxiously from behind.
Emily, it's dangerous. Come back. Michael, why didn't you stop her?
I tried my best. Didn't you see my hand? Showing his scratched and bleeding hand.
Seeing my injured hand, they didn't say anything more. I watched coldly as Emily rushed into the scene. The memory of bleeding out and feeling cold was still vivid in my mind. This time, I would live well and see how she and John could be happy together. The police, fire trucks, and ambulances arrived one after another. Just as Emily managed to pull John out, the car exploded, and the blast knocked them unconscious. At the hospital, both of them suffered varying degrees of injuries. John's leg was crushed and had to be amputated due to the delay. Emily's arm was also severely injured, ending her career as a piano teacher.
Fortunately, the explosion didn't kill them outright. Now, I was curious to see how these two, with their injuries, would continue their love story.
Reporters quickly arrived at the hospital. The Goof family was a prominent family, and the accident involving the heir was big news.
John, you scared me to death. We just got engaged, and now this happens. What would I do without you? She played the role of the concerned fiancé, tears streaming down her face.
Reporters, always keen for a story, soon found Emily in the same hospital room and interviewed her.
Miss Emily, weren't you afraid at that moment?
I couldn't stand by and watch John get hurt, so I wasn't afraid.
She wanted to continue, but John's mother, Helen, appeared, exuding elegance in her designer clothes.
Miss Emily is a good friend of my son. We are very grateful for her actions and will certainly repay her.
Turning to John's fiancée, Sarah, she said,
Sarah is also very grateful to Miss Emily and wants to thank her personally.
Miss Emily, thank you so much. Without you, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Rest and recover, The Gu family and your family will not forget your kindness.
Emily looked uneasy. True to their word, the Gu family arranged a private room for Emily and handed a $2 million check to her parents before she was discharged. Emily's parents were overjoyed.
I don't want their money. I saved John not for money.
Are you foolish? If not for money, then for what? For love? He has a fiancée. Stop dreaming. Didn't you agree to be with Michael before John's engagement?
As Emily's boyfriend, Michael naturally stayed outside the room and heard everything clearly. He couldn't help but laugh.
I used to think her parents liked me because I treated Emily well. Later, I realized they were greedy. In the past life, to marry Emily, I bought her parents a house and a car and gave them $1 million dowry, but it was never enough for this greedy family. This time, I wouldn't be a fool.
The doctor came to check on Emily and sternly told her parents.
The patient is in the early stages of pregnancy, just 2 months. She can't be stressed and needs to rest after her injuries. Don't make a fuss.
Pregnant. He was stunned at the door. This was different from the previous life. Everyone in the room was also shocked.
Emily's parents saw Michael standing at the door, stunned, and smiled.
Michael, come in. You heard the doctor, right? Emily is pregnant. Shouldn't you plan your wedding soon?
Michael shook off Margaret's enthusiastic hand and said calmly,
Auntie, Emily, and I have only been officially dating for a month. This child can't be mine. Sorry, I can't be your son-in-law.
The room fell silent.
Emily, if you don't like me, you could have said so. But being pregnant with someone else's child and still agreeing to date me? Sorry, I won't be a convenient father.
Margaret's face turned red, and she slapped Emily.
You foolish girl, whose child is it?
A few friends blamed me. Michael, why didn't you stop her?
I tried my best. Didn't you see my hand?
I showed them my hand, scratched and injured from Emily's grip. Seeing my injured hand, they didn't say anything more. I watched coldly as Emily rushed into the scene. The memory of that cold and painful night was still vivid in my mind. This time, I would live well and see how she and John could be happy together. The police, fire trucks, and ambulances arrived one after another. Just as Emily managed to pull John out, the car exploded, and the blast knocked them unconscious. At the hospital, both of them suffered varying degrees of injuries. John's leg was crushed and had to be amputated due to the delay. Emily's arm was also severely injured, ending her career as a piano teacher. Fortunately, the explosion didn't end their lives. Now, I was curious to see how these two, with their injuries, would continue their love story. Michael passed by John's hospital room and looked through the small glass window. He saw Emily, with her arm in a cast, visiting John. She was silently crying in front of John, whose face was gloomy after losing a leg.
John, you scared me so much. Do you know how frightened I was? If I could have saved you a little earlier, your leg wouldn't have been.
It's okay. Even though I lost a leg, I'm still alive. Thank you. I will convince my parents to accept us being together. I'll find a way to break off the engagement with Sarah.
Emily leaned into his arms and placed his hand on her stomach.
John, you're going to be a father.
Really?
John's happiness was short-lived as hurried footsteps echoed in the hallway. Michael quickly retreated to the empty room next door. Robert and Helen, with cold expressions, arrived at John's room and pushed the door open. Behind them was Sarah, equally displeased.
Emily, I underestimated you. Do you think you can marry into our family just because you're expecting? You're too naive. The only grandchild of the Gu family will come from Sarah.
At that moment, Margaret burst in from behind, shouting down the hallway.
Everyone, Come and see. The Goof family is shameless. My daughter is expecting, and they refuse to acknowledge the child. Let me tell you, it won't be that easy. Either they get married or you pay up.
The Goof family members turned pale with anger.
Emily has a boyfriend. Who knows if the child is John's? Just because you say so?
Hearing this, Michael immediately jumped out to defend himself.
That child isn't mine. When we were dating, she wouldn't even let me hold her hand. Don't accuse me.
Sarah was momentarily surprised, seemingly not expecting Michael to be in the next room.
John, you know that night we went to the hot springs, I'm not that kind of girl. You know I've always only loved you.
Are you trying to deny everything after using my daughter? She's carrying your family's child. You must give us an explanation.
Emily nestled in John's arms, tears streaming down her face.
Mom, this child is indeed mine. I truly love Emily. Please let us be together.
Sarah was furious, almost losing her balance.
Good. 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 When the Goof family needed my family to save their business, why didn't you say you loved her? Now that the Goof family is back on its feet, you want to burn bridges? You must give the Xiao family an explanation.
With that, Sarah slammed the door and left. John wanted to speak but was interrupted by his mother.
John, as a member of the Goof family, you should understand your responsibilities. If you want to cancel the engagement with the Xiao family, fine. Your brother can marry into the Xiao family, but from now on, the Goof family business will have nothing to do with you. Think it over.
I've thought it over. I only want to be with Emily. I don't care about anything else.
Hearing that John was willing to give up his inheritance for Emily, Michael almost laughed out loud. John, a spoiled rich kid who knew nothing but eating, drinking, and having fun, even had a nominal position at the company. And Emily, who had been taught by her mother to marry a wealthy man, had deceived Michael in the past life. He had been like a loyal dog, always pleasing her. This time, it was John's turn to bear the burden of Emily's family. Let's see how long he can last. The Goof family didn't accept Emily, and John left home for love. They ended up moving into the house Michael had bought for Emily. A month ago, when Emily agreed to be his girlfriend, Michael felt sorry for her long commute and impulsively bought a house near her company, letting her live there first. After learning in the hospital that Emily was expecting John's child, Michael thought she should move out. He planned to sell the house, but the password he entered was incorrect. He was puzzled. How could it be wrong when he said it? Just then, someone opened the door from inside. It was Emily.
What are you doing here?
I should be asking you that. How can you still live here?
Who's there, Emily?
Oh, it's you, John. I'm here to sell the house.
This is my house. How can you sell it?
I've seen shameless people, but never anyone this shameless.
A few friends gathered around me, their eyes filled with blame and confusion.
Michael, why didn't you stop her?
I tried my best. Didn't you see my hand?
I showed them my hand, scratched and bleeding from Emily's grip. Seeing my injured hand, they didn't say anything more. I watched coldly as Emily rushed into the scene, the memory of feeling cold and desperate still vivid.
This time, I will live well and see how she and John can be happy together.
The police, fire trucks, and ambulances arrived one after another. Just as Emily managed to pull John out, the car exploded, and the blast knocked them unconscious. At the hospital, both of them suffered varying degrees of injuries.
John's leg was crushed and had to be amputated due to the delay. Emily's arm was also severely injured, ending her career as a piano teacher.
Fortunately, the explosion didn't kill them outright. Now, I was curious to see how these two, with their injuries, would continue their love story. She cried in the live stream, recounting how I had bought her a house when I was pursuing her.
It wasn't me who asked for it. Michael was cold-blooded and heartless for stopping me from saving John. And after we broke up, he kicked us out.
They stayed together out of love, facing family opposition and misunderstanding from many people, even giving up a wealthy lifestyle. Now, even living in a small house, they felt happy.
I'm not doing this live stream for the gifts. Some people say I'm doing it for money, but I'm not. I just want to show everyone that my dedication to love isn't something that can be swayed by worldly views and constraints.
The viewers were moved by their love story and showered her with gifts. Meanwhile, my family's company's official account was flooded with angry comments from netizens.
Such a cold-blooded person who stops others from saving lives. Michael must be the real culprit.
With such a cold-blooded air, we have reason to doubt the integrity of your company. How can we trust you are a conscientious enterprise?
Just because you can't have someone you want to harm them, make Michael come out and apologize.
Due to the high level of attention, sometimes during the live stream, John would appear to hand Emily a fruit platter, pour her a glass of warm water, and gently ask if she was tired, making the viewers tear up. Their story of giving up a wealthy life for love and living together in a small room moved many.
I can no longer play the piano due to my injury from saving someone.
Watching them continuously put on a show, I couldn't help but smirk.
Since that's the case, I decided to help them out.
I asked a friend's musical instrument company to hire Emily as a spokesperson.
She has slandered you so much. Why do you want to help her?
Do me a favor and hire her as a spokesperson. Make sure the contract is detailed. If the spokesperson's image affects the product, the spokesperson will have to pay 10 times the breach of contract fee as compensation.
When my friend approached Emily with the contract, she was overjoyed and didn't notice the trap I had set for her in the contract. Seeing the tens of thousands in endorsement fees, she signed without reading it carefully.
But that wasn't enough. The higher they rise, the harder they fall.
I had my friend immediately create billboards featuring Emily's photos, plastering them everywhere.
Should we handle the crisis?
Let him handle it himself. If he can't handle such matters, he wouldn't be capable of taking over the company in the future.
I had someone retrieve surveillance footage of Emily, after becoming my girlfriend, going to hot springs alone with John several times. The footage showed them being intimate in the hotel corridor and eventually entering the same room, not leaving until the next afternoon.
I also prepared photos of the car accident scene and my hand, which was scratched when I tried to stop Emily. I had been preparing for this day.
When the online abuse had almost painted me as a heinous villain, I released a series of evidence online.
I had tried to stop Emily because the professional rescuers on the scene were warning of the imminent danger of an explosion and advising against entering the scene. Here are the photos of my hand, scratched and bleeding, from trying to stop Emily.
The most explosive part was why Emily was so eager to save someone else's fiancé. The surveillance footage revealed that they had been secretly involved, even while having other partners, spending a whole day together at the hot springs.
Adding to that, Emily is pregnant with John's child.
With the timeline laid out, the truth emerged. The internet was in an uproar.
During the car accident, the professionals were stopping people, and even John's fiancée didn't rush in, but Emily did. It turned out they had been secretly involved and expecting a child, while selling a narrative of true love online.
The online sentiment changed dramatically.
These shameless people, my enthusiasm was wasted on them.
How can she have the face to say their love is true? Unbelievable.
Now that I think about it, Michael didn't even hit them, and he had every right to ask them to move out of his house.
This pair of traitors, it's just too much.
Emily's reputation and online reviews plummeted. Michael called his friend.
Now's your chance to make money. Emily's personal life has affected your company's products. You should ask her for compensation for breaching the contract.
You're really ruthless.
Am I ruthless? No, compared to how she harmed me, this is nothing.
Emily couldn't afford to pay that much money, so she secretly took the $2 million bank card that the John family had given to her parents and compensated the company. The next time Michael saw Emily, she was wearing maternity clothes and blocked him at the company entrance.
Michael, do you hate me that much? Do you know how much those videos hurt me? My arm is injured, I can't play the piano, my career is ruined, my endorsements are gone, and I have to pay money. I'm already so miserable, and you still want to hurt me online.
Michael rolled his eyes.
Your arm injury and ruined career have nothing to do with me.
He ignored her and walked forward. She shouted from behind.
Michael, don't you think you're going too far? Are you even a man, attacking a woman like this?
Michael's fighting spirit was ignited. He turned to look at her. Some onlookers had already started taking out their phones to record.
Emily, you ruined your arm saving John and can't play the piano. Shouldn't you be looking for him? Why come to me? I posted the videos to prove my innocence, so no one could slander me online for ruining your relationship out of spite. If people don't mess with me, I won't mess with them. If they do, I can't guarantee the fish will die, but the net will definitely break.
I'm pregnant now. Aren't you afraid of the consequences if something happens to me and the baby?
Michael took a step back.
You're still bringing up your pregnancy? That's evidence of your betrayal. Don't use your pregnancy to morally blackmail me.
He looked at the onlookers with their phones.
Make sure you record this clearly. I didn't touch her. Don't blame me if something happens to the baby. No false accusations.
The onlookers laughed, and Michael made a heart gesture.
The eyes of the public are sharp.
Emily had no choice but to leave in frustration. Now, whenever Emily went live, she was bombarded with insults and had to shut down her streams. Both she and John couldn't find jobs. John, with his amputated leg, had never held a proper job, and no one wanted to hire a disabled person with no work experience. Emily could only play the piano, but with her arm injured, she couldn't play anymore. Her live streaming career was over, and they were left staring at each other in despair at home. Emily urged John to go back and apologize to his family.
John, our baby is due in a few months. If we don't have money, how will we raise him? He's the first grandson of the John family. They have to support us. You promised me the best hospital and postpartum care.
John was furious. They were struggling to eat, and she still wanted the best hospital and care. They had a huge argument. Margaret, who had hoped her daughter would marry into a wealthy family, saw her dreams shattered and caused a scene at their home.
You, a John family young master, have no money and expect my daughter to support you? If you want to marry my daughter, you need to bring a dowry of $5 million. If you don't get the money, you'll have to move out next month. There's a storage room at home you can stay in.
John couldn't take it anymore and stormed out. Returning to his family was not an option, so John turned to Sarah. What John didn't know was that Michael had already sent Sarah a copy of the video of him and Emily. Sarah knew about it before it went public and hated him deeply. Sarah had initially questioned Michael's motives for sending her the video. It wasn't until Michael suggested they join forces to punish this pair of traitors that she let her guard down. Sarah, a wealthy heiress, had never been treated like this. John's visit was like walking into a trap.
John, how could a woman like her be worthy of you? If you still care about me, I could ask Uncle Robert and Aunt Helen to forgive you, and we could reconsider our engagement. But
what?
Our family has a reputation to uphold. You can't bring an illegitimate child into our marriage. How would that look for our family?
In another part of town, a tense conversation was taking place.
So, what you're saying is...
I didn't say anything. Once you resolve this matter and restore our family's reputation, we can discuss renewing the engagement. Men can make mistakes before marriage, it's understandable.
John's eyes lit up.
Sarah, I was wrong before. Don't worry, I'll give you a satisfactory result. He limped away quickly.
Little did he know, Sarah watched his departing figure with a meaningful smile. Meanwhile, Emily's rented apartment was in chaos. Margaret was lying on the living room floor, her hair disheveled, throwing a tantrum. She had just discovered that her 2 million yuan bank card was missing.
That money was given to me. How dare she take it?
Emily looked at her mother helplessly.
That money was originally given to me by the Gu family. Is it wrong for me to take back my own money?
Given to you? I gave birth to you. That 2 million is compensation for me. If you don't give it back, I won't leave. Do as you wish.
You shameless old woman, it's my money. Leave if you want, I could use someone to cook.
John walked in just in time to see the mother-daughter confrontation. In his mind, Emily was an ethereal being, but now she was disheveled, hands on her hips, arguing. Remembering Sarah's words, he thought.
We were never meant to be together. How could a woman like her be worthy of me?
He made up his mind. Seeing John return, Emily quickly put down her hands and walked over.
John, you're back. She turned to her mother. Mom, go home first. We'll talk tomorrow.
Talk? Today, in front of John, let's discuss this money. Doesn't he have a share in spending it?
Emily didn't want to ruin her image and pushed her mother away.
Go home. I'll give you more in a few days.
After finally coaxing Margaret to leave, John took Emily's hand.
Emily, we need to plan. I have to return to the Gu family. Only if Sarah forgives me will my family allow me back. I met with Sarah today. She said we could renew the engagement if we give up this child.
Emily was stunned, touching her belly and stepping back.
What did you say?
Listen, we can pretend to break up. I'll marry Sarah, and once I control the Gu and Xia family businesses, everything will be ours. We can have more children in the future. This is a temporary measure, Emily. Think about it.
No, don't even think about touching my child.
If we keep this child, I can't return to the Gu family. We'll remain poor. How will we survive? I don't want to live like this anymore.
John, you promised to give us a good life and take care of me and the child. I won't give up the child. Please, don't force me.
Seeing Emily's stubbornness, a flash of ruthlessness crossed John's eyes, but he continued to comfort her softly.
All right, don't worry. I won't mention it again.
However, in the middle of the night, Emily felt thirsty. John made her a cup of honey water. By dawn, Emily was in severe pain and was rushed to the hospital, where she lost the baby.
It's okay. We're still young. We can have more children.
It was you. You did something to the water, didn't you? You want to marry Sarah and return to the Gu family. You ended my pregnancy. I loved you so much, carried your child, and was called a homewrecker. Yet you did this.
Don't worry. I'll never leave you. I won't marry Sarah. I only love you.
But a barely noticeable smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. A few friends gathered around me, their faces filled with blame.
Michael, why didn't you stop her?
I tried my best. Didn't you see my hand?
I displayed my hand, scratched and injured from Emily's grip. Seeing my hand, they fell silent. I watched coldly as Emily rushed into the scene. The memory of bleeding out and feeling cold was still vivid in my mind. This time, I would live well and see how she and John could be happy together. The police, fire trucks, and ambulances arrived one after another. Just as Emily managed to pull John out, the car exploded, and the blast knocked them unconscious. At the hospital, both of them suffered varying degrees of injuries. John's leg was crushed and had to be amputated due to the delay. Emily's arm was also severely injured, ending her career as a piano teacher. Fortunately, the explosion didn't kill them outright. Now, I was curious to see how these two, with their injuries, would continue their love story.